day where with Leon, he denounces... Like, one of them, I guess, had gotten in trouble on someone's chat a few days ago for saying that. And as soon as
you cut out. I didn't hear. I cut out on the good part.
Yeah, so somebody like was already, one of my viewers was already known in the chat trolling about denouncing Antifa or something, and they somehow already linked him to me. So I go back to the chat to see what's going on, and there's like people in chat and the streamer are like talking about me like denouncing Antifa and all this like crazy stuff I never did. Like, and they like beat me to. There's other ones I like find a new one. I'm like going to copy paste, and before I like hit the follow button and get in.
Whoa! You didn't denounce Antifa?
Stop. And yeah, I should have done this on my other mod, but I just didn't think I had to. I should have. Do I have a clips? I think there are my clips in chat or something. Yeah, there's actually a clip of somebody I like asked if they wanted to join. Somewhere on my Twitch channel, you should be able to find clips.
That is so crazy that they would do that.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It made me feel so bad.
Oh, people get really heated about the whole Antifa thing too. So.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's. It might be too far in chat. I think it's gone. Yes. Can't find it now. Yes. And don't you dare change the welcome message on this Discord, Harlequin. I see you. Off the laptop by Harlequin.
There we go. I just had to promote your guys' streams a little bit.
Oh, thank you.
Nice. Thank you.
No problem. We're the only ones up. It's 2:26 here in Michigan.
Thanks, Igloo. Yeah, it's 2:27 here. I should be asleep, but I'm kind of... It was actually like pretty fun for me because I got like really angry. Is this message perfectly correct? Are they going to misconstrue anything I'm saying? Like...
I will say, like, when I got that, I was like, because usually when I get invites like that, that's why I was a little reticent, especially when I got here and it was like, you know, do you denounce Antifa? And I'm like,
yeah.
Because usually it's like, you know, we want to get a leftist in here so that we can all gang up on him and like accuse him of all these horrible things, and like, and I'm not down for that. I do not want to walk into a trap like that. So I'm very like a little careful.
Why is it a trap? Why is it dangerous to denounce violence? Like, do we actually want to get into this? Are we going to go Pac-Man style and, there's some things we just don't talk about because it's not worth it?
Well, it depends on what exactly you want to get into, honestly. I hold the stance that Antifa is good. I mean, there are issues because it's not, it's a decentralized, just sort of a identity, not even a group. There's no leaders, there's nothing like that. So they really just it's really just a defense mechanism against fascism.
So you think it's okay to attack somebody for speech?
Depends on speech.
It doesn't matter. So somebody says the most disgusting, filthy words out of their mouth. You are justified in violence.
It's not always just disgusting words, though. You know that. I said that generally, so you can put the most egregious thing in your mind, and then that is what, for some reason, that crosses the violence threshold for you. That crosses the justification of violence line. The nature of fascism is to essentially push the ideas as this is the common sense idea, it's normal for us to agree that immigrants are the problem or anything, and everybody believes this. There's no reason, and it's just or it's this irony.
This is a worse argument, not a better argument. So you're saying tepid speech where they're doing dog whistles, that justifies violence. So what you perceive as a dog whistle justifies violence.
It really depends. Like it's very like punching Richard Spencer, who is a fascist propagandist.
Mm-hmm.
You know, is inherently good, especially when he's being interviewed on a mainstream
CNN?
news, and you know he's getting his speech out like that. And I will say I'm not a free speech absolutist in a lot of ways.
Should have punched Richard Spencer when he had him on his show. It was Anderson
He shouldn't have had him on his show at all.
But I agree, he shouldn't have, but he did.
Yeah.
So now here let's take this a step further. Are you justified in violence against Anderson Cooper because he gave him a platform?
No.
Because he allowed that speech to be broadcast to tens of people in his audience. Does he have no culpability?
He has culpability, but the reaction should not be violence. It's not his message. He's just sort of a platform
isn't
for
it? Because if is that the biggest dog whistle is platforming somebody, giving somebody the opportunity to spew their hate.
I mean, there was pushback on what he said.
Oh, I didn't actually watch the interview. It's Richard Spencer. Why would I watch it?
I mean, there you go. But I mean, it doesn't stop at speech. I mean, for example, a lot of people like to bring up what happened at Berkeley with
when
Milo.
It doesn't stop at speech, then you have an argument. But when it does stop at speech, you're saying you're still justified. Sometimes, in a rare blue moon, violence is justified from speech.
I mean, that's why it's honestly so rare for Antifa to attack people. It's over-reported, sure. What is under-reported is right-wing attacks. You know, unless they actually kill somebody, then it gets reported. You know, for example, like Portland, they don't talk at all about the fact that, that day that Andy No was attacked, the Proud Boys had just got done attacking some transgender people, beat the shit out of them, sent them to the hospital. The response to that, as Andy No sat around and filmed them and, went along with them while trying to paint Antifa as this violent act, continually going into their crowd to, call them communists and assholes and all those things. You don't see that part, but you see him get hit in the face and then hit with a milkshake, and then lie about having a brain aneurysm, among other things.
Whoa, so I must have missed something. Andy No said those things?
Yeah.
He's just recording other people saying those things.
He records, and what he does is he gets in the face of Antifa to basically encourage violence against them so that he can paint...
oh my God! Did you just say that?
Oh.
He gets in the face to encourage violence against him. You're making me do this. Your actions are making me... Quit making me punch you. Quit making me punch you.
It's very literally the same argument that the Proud Boys use to get in fights.
That's bad too.
Yeah.
I can say that is bad. Denounce that violence is bad. It should never happen. Never.
So
violence is not the proper response for speech in any way, any time. Why is that? How is that not a thing?
Do you think their speech is like? Would you consider it violent speech?
Yes. I do consider some speech violence. I was going to actually give an example of that. A lot of people talk about Berkeley when Milo was a thing. Thank God he's not. Thank you, deplatforming. But what they don't talk about is what he was going to do that day that Berkeley decided to riot, which was the response to him. It wasn't to stop him from giving a speech. He was going to go up there and he was going to name people who were illegal immigrants who were in the area.
Report? How the hell do we know that? How do you know what he was going to do before he does it?
Because he literally said that's what he was going to do. Because previously...
And you trust him?
Well, yeah, the previous time he was there, he dead named a transgender student who was in attendance.
So doxing
and he said he was going to do that.
Naming, that's violent speech.
Well, it caused them to get harassed, and they had to leave the college.
No. Where's the threshold here? That's violent speech. Or no?
Essentially, telling people where to point a gun is violent speech, yes.
So, doxing Tucker Carlson, those guys should be in jail. Showing up at Mitch McConnell's house, those guys should be in jail. Not only should those guys be in jail, violence should have been visited upon them because they showed up at Tucker Carlson's house, or they showed up at Mitch McConnell's house. There's a lot of difference between saying, hey, this guy lives over there, and then showing up the dude's front door. Right? Is there no difference in those two things?
I mean, I don't see any difference in those things. I mean, showing up and vandalizing Tucker Carlson's house is a bad thing. Yes, that is against the law. Yes, that is violence. Showing up to hang on, because you also said Mitch McConnell. Showing up to Mitch McConnell's house. I mean, he's a public figure. It's public knowledge where he stays because he works as a public figure. You cannot dox a public figure like that.
Yes, his home residence. Yes, you can. You can go to his office and protest his office.
Everyone in Kentucky knows where his house is.
Well, okay.
You can literally just search it without even doxing him, and
You can dox other parts of him though too, right? I'm assuming he has like a phone number. So even if they know where his house
even
is,
that's public knowledge, though.
In some ways.
Even that's public knowledge. He has to be reached because he's a senator.
So he has to be reached at home.
Well, I mean, not necessarily. But, I mean, there is an extent that he has to be reachable by the public. Am I wrong?
So at night, he has... So, I mean, I don't know what time of day it was. I just saw the videos at nighttime. The sun is down, and it's okay to visit... Okay, so let's see where...
It was a pleasure
what kind of violence
for you two.
Is justified.
Quailers, no, I'm not interested in hearing any music. I'm sorry, I missed that. Someone came in and said something.
Oh, what kind of violence is justified against speech?
Well, I mean, obviously not killing.
Why?
That's a step too far. I mean, the idea is to essentially get fascists too afraid to come back out again. Because the best way that a fascist message can be spread is through speech. They use free speech as a tool. Once fascism takes over, they get rid of free speech. They are not pro-free speech.
So in order to preserve free speech, you're condemning free speech.
Not really.
You are. You're not allowing some people to have free speech because you're afraid they're going to take away free speech.
Okay.
That's what you just said.
I mean, I'm not making any policy to do that. What a person does as a reaction to someone's speech is also free speech, is it not? Is somebody responding to somebody's speech with consequences, whatever they may be, is a response and is free speech.
No. Violence is not speech.
That's what I was going to ask, is if free speech is also constituted in like non-ways or even non-communicative ways. Right? I think we typically wouldn't consider like punching someone a form of communication.
Yeah.
But, I think
body language, I see your point, yeah. Like non-verbal body language. But even that, like, unless you're, no, we can't do that. Because even pros get that stuff wrong.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like a supreme case that points towards like the non-verbal communication, but I'm sure we could find some.
But I mean, you're still missing the overall point that Antifa is a response. It doesn't exist without fascism. That's been proven.
I think I would agree with that.
Go ahead. Unless they find fascism where it's not.
But they're not.
Unless they need fascism to survive. So it becomes a reciprocal system. So here we go. well, I'm not going to link it. There's a good video by Professor Jeffrey Murray and Justin Murphy. No, Jeffrey Miller and Justin Murphy. And he goes over some of the psychology of Antifa, which I don't agree with all of it.
Okay.
But one of the point is this tribal warfare. And Antifa is a tribe, and the fascists are a tribe. And they relate it to soccer hooliganism in Britain. And they need these opposing teams. Because without the opposing team, you lose your identity.
Why didn't Antifa exist under Obama?
Didn't they? Is this
No.
a new thing?
Yes. Well, I mean, it's not a new thing in the overall idea of being anti-fascist, because anti-fascist groups have popped up all over the world. Wherever there's fascism, there's going to be the response of anti-fascism. That's why I said once fascism disappears, this has been proven, Antifa no longer exists.
How has it been proven? By whom? And
Well, there's been a number of people who've looked into it. Anti-fascist groups literally pop up as a response to fascism, and they are doing that now. You can't tell me though what's going on in Portland is not fascist.
Yeah, them suppressing speech is absolutely fascist.
No, not Antifa.
Yes,
I'm anti. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and let's concentrate just on Portland. Okay, who is Antifa in Portland? Are they citizens of Portland, or are they people coming from outside of Portland?
Both.
No.
Yes.
No.
You think that they don't bust people in for that?
No.
You don't think people come from outside the community? So that's just.
If they do, it's a small amount. But I will tell you who are being bussed in. It's the Proud Boys and it's Patriot Prayer. The majority of those people are not citizens of Portland. They're coming into Portland because they see that as a mecca of left-wing-ism. And they're pushing against it. Meanwhile, you've also find that the police in Portland work alongside with Patriot
No,
Prayer.
you don't.
Yes, you do.
True.
That is 110% true.
Okay, let's because you're making a claim here, which I'm not. Since you're making a claim, could you?
What's that?
Yeah, you're cutting out a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Since you're making the claim that the police are helping them, can you identify how? I'm not like disagreeing. I'm just playing moderate. So how
I'm sorry.
Are the police aiding?
Well, they were here. I'm trying to find the link.
So
Okay.
what he's talking about is the text messages between some Patriot player people and the police.
And also the fact that they have a tendency of only reacting to Antifa violence and not Proud Boy or Patriot Prayer violence.
Well, from the videos I've seen, that's not my interpretation.
Who's releasing the videos?
Dude, I watch them all. Who's I don't know. Are there videos that I'm missing? They're everywhere on Twitter after the. So this week.
Yeah, of course, they're everywhere on Twitter, being pushed by right-wing sources.
I mean, I read Huffington Post. I mean, my stream can attest to every day.
Huffington
I read
Post.
Huffington Post.
You think that? Okay, let me ask you. Do you think that Huffington Post is friendly to Antifa? Do you think any mainstream outlet is friendly to Antifa?
Yes.
No. They try to play both sides. See, that's centrist journalism. The problem with centrist journalism is they work as a vehicle for fascism. They always do. That's always been a thing. The liberals in West Germany worked with the Nazi Party because they kind of saw both sides and tried to split the middle. But that's still Nazism, is it not?
Are you just admitting that the left is Nazis?
I said liberals, centrist liberals.
So what is that? Okay. So liberals
That's
are
not
Nazis
the
in
left,
Germany.
by
So
definition.
Okay. Yeah. We've jumped into a middle discussion, so I don't know your definitions about.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and like real quick. What are these groups or what identifies them or whatever?
Oh,
Actually, we're getting off point here. If I can interject and
what is the point we're getting?
Bring it back to Antifa and Patriot Prayer groups. So where we kind of diverged do the Portland police really are the Patriot Prayer groups being helped, assisted by the city of Portland? And is the media assisting them in only reporting violence from Antifa and not from Patriot Prayer?
Yes. Spreading a national message that Antifa is the actual violence and only violence that's coming out of Portland and other places does advance the cause of the Proud Boys and Patriot Prayer. Because it's turning a blind eye to the violence that they cause, which caused Antifa to exist in Portland.
So can you link me the violence that the Patriot Prayer has done, the videos of that?
Sure. Might not be videos, because we're talking about, like, these are flash things that happens, things that have been reported on. But
sadly, the other side has videos. Like, I don't want somebody's word for it.
Imagine a bunch of people who have, like, a lot of funding, enough to buy buses to drive into Portland, having also the ability to take videos.
There are cameras everywhere. So you're saying Antifa is too poor to have cameras?
They're just citizens of Portland.
Dude,
reacting to
right now, and I count 8 cameras, and none of them picked up Proud Boy violence, but they did pick up Antifa violence. And this is the Guardian. Like, I'm just looking at the front page of the Guardian right here in this one picture.
And again, mainstream media, man.
The Guardian's pretty left wing, but see that point. That doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we've kind of sussed that to the end of it.
Yeah, I'm trying to search out the videos to see if I can find it. The problem with Google is they're all going to link things like what you just said. They're going to link the top, like HuffPost and all this, and they're not going to show it. They're going to show them talking to the Proud Boys and saying, they're just a drinking group, even though they're entirely about fighting left-wing people. Like, you can't have Gavin McInnes sitting there talking about, if somebody identifies as a leftist, punch him in the face. That's nothing. No, that's nothing at all.
But Antifa only identifies by attacking fascists, by your own definition.
Yeah.
So why is it bad for the Proud Boys to only exist to punch leftists, but good for Antifa to only exist to punch Nazis?
Because Antifa is a response.
So reactionism is okay. Violent reactionaryism, which isn't a word.
It's a word.
I think we're really just at this impasse. Like, I don't think we're just gonna have to agree to disagree.
I think the statement that Mark is trying to get to is that Antifa wouldn't exist if the other side didn't exist and have problems.
Yes, and that has been proven again. They have looked at.
No, it hasn't. You can't make a claim like that. You can't make a claim that it's been proven that anti-fascism will dissolve. So do you think that anti-fascism ever mistarget somebody?
Of course they have, because it's not a centralized group. Oh, here we go. Here, I'll link this in your chat. My buddy Igloo found. There you go. There's your violence from Patriot Prayer.
Yeah, someone in my set chat said Antifa is a reaction to violence, not a reaction to peaceful fascism.
Yes.
Well, I'm just reading from chat.
They can't have violence if there's nobody to be violent against. Who are they violent against without Antifa being there?
The people that they perceive as leftists. They go in and start trouble. That's literally what the Proud Boys do.
If people ignore them, then how do they start trouble?
You kind of can't ignore someone who's in your face and
how long did the Proud Boys meeting last? Do you know? I mean, this is kind of a gotcha question.
There really wasn't that much. There was really not that much violence in that
until the Proud Boys left. And then Antifa split up and they're decentralized groups and were attacking just random people.
You think the Proud Boys actually left?
Yeah. Their meeting only lasted 30 minutes is what it was reported. For some reason, which I thought was bizarre.
Their march and everything?
Yeah. The rally in the park only lasted 30 minutes and then they disbanded.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the videos from this weekend, which thankfully it was not bad. violence-wise. But all of the videos are actually after the Proud Boys had already left.
I'm going to link a long video that can explain it a lot better than I can from Philosophy Tube. That gets into it much better, and even cites the studies that have proven that anti-fascist groups no longer exist once fascism leaves. So,
That link doesn't have a video, by the way.
which
The
one?
link you gave me.
Well, I mean, they're not going to all have video.
The Pix Eater. I asked you to find one video.
I did
Just
post
one.
one video. There's
I'm on the site right now, and the only video is fish ice cream.
fish ice cream.
PDXeater.com. I mean, did I click on the wrong link?
There's another one. He's linked 3 things recently.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
The first one was the
What is
Pix
YouTube?
Eater, Portland Ball. Yeah, that. There's no video of that. Second thing, that's the Philosophy Tube, right? No.
No,
video.
that's not Philosophy Tube.
Oh,
That's
I think
Berkeley.
he was just repeating the link to make it easier.
Yeah. I'm posting it in the Discord, too.
Oh, I have Philosophy Tube. I watch it every time.
Yeah. Have you watched his Antifa video?
I have not watched the Antifa one yet, though.
That would explain it a lot better than I can. He's like I said, he says a lot of the same things, but he's able to actually link to the studies. Here it is.
Yeah, if I Google YouTube Philosophy Tube, the very first thing that comes up is Philosophy Tube.
Oh, yeah, that dude gets millions of hits.
Not millions. It's like
Doesn't he?
the specifically this one he got like 700,000. And I think
a
that's
shit ton, dude.
I mean, yeah,
That's
it's
a
a
lot.
lot, but it's not millions. I mean,
Well-
let's be honest here. That was
Well,
like
what are the other ones? I could have swore I saw some videos with him that had more than
Let's see. His
But
most popular video has 765,000 on
Oh.
Steve Bannon.
and it's that video.
Antifa
I'm pretty
is
sure.
actually second
Oh,
most
no.
popular.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's like the Bannon video didn't talk about Anthem. I watched the Bannon video.
Yeah. The Bannon video was pretty good, but yeah, it didn't talk about Antifa at all. Here's the
I'll check it
oh,
out.
did Harley Quinn post that? Oh, yeah. He just reposted that YouTube video that I was given.
Mhm.
But yeah, that is a video of the violence.
That's Berkeley, though. I mean, that's fine. Berkeley police persecute counter protesters. I don't think this is what you think it is.
Oh, I apologize. Someone in my chat sent that.
Oh, it's going down. I haven't looked at this one yet. Oh, this is the Antifa freaking website. This isn't a I mean, if it's a video, it's a video. But this is not a legitimate source.
Like you
It's
said, if
going
it's a
down.
video, it's a video, right?
Right. I haven't found a video yet. I still haven't found a video. This guy was
And I
yelling
mean-
the N-word at protesters.
The thing about the whole text messages between the police and Patriot Prayer was that they were passing information to Patriot Prayer about when and where counter protesters would be.
The problem with that is that's a normal state of business. That's normal procedure to try
How?
to infiltrate and get information about everybody. Like if you have two groups, you're going to do that to both groups. Now, one group
How
is
would
definitely
they weren't
pro-police.
infiltrating though, because they were literally saying, "Hey, we're the police. Hey, we'll help you out here. Hey, we'll protect you, so that you can do this
Did he say that?
unabated."
Now, what? I would have to see that. That will protect you and you'll get out unabated. I have to see that. Joey Gibson talks about working with
He talked
Department of
about
Homeland Security.
he talked about one of the things that they warned about was they knew someone there had a warrant. Or he said, by the way, make sure Tiny has his court stuff taken care of. I was told on the radio at Jameson Square event he had a warrant. I told them we would not be arresting Tiny right now. So please be sure he's good to go before coming down. I mean, essentially saying, you know, like, be good we don't want to arrest you. That's not usually something that you say to someone that you're worried about violence from. And they have had violence, as a lot of people have shown.
Nobody has shown that, by the way. This video is some guy talking. There are no videos of this.
Okay, and
this is the Antifa site.
Okay.
And there are no videos of this.
2 Proud Boys charged with felonies for Portland attack. Well-known members of the far-right Proud Boys group, this is the newest link that I posted in this chat, have been charged with felony assault for a 2018 attack on an opponent in Portland, according to the Daily Beast. Proud Boy Donovan Filippo was arrested by police. The other suspect, Tustala Tiny Toas, that's the guy that they were protecting. Texting and saying, hey, make sure you take care of your court stuff, by the police. Police weirdly not wanting to arrest someone that is being charged with attacking someone. That's a little strange for the police, isn't it? You don't find that at all strange?
No. We have no idea what the warrant was for. So if you
I linked it in the chat.
What the warrant was for? Anyway, that's a different. So you're dealing with a riot situation or a mass whatever. I mean, you don't have to use the verbiage riot. But you are not picking off individuals for past due bench warrants. That is not the purpose of that day.
He was a part of the attack.
Well, then he got arrested for being an attacker, right?
The text messages were after.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's almost like the police were protecting him. That's why it doesn't make any sense. If you accept that the police were protecting him, it makes complete sense.
They already arrested them. What are they protecting him from?
Arrest?
But they already... Okay.
He had a warrant out. Okay, at the time that the charges were pressed, they were able to get Filippo, but this Tiny was in American Samoa and said that he would be returning to the mainland to face charges. And then he went back to Portland, attended a parade because he was told, they were texted by the police that they weren't going to arrest them. So no, he was not arrested. He had a warrant, and they said, just, take care of it before you come back here so we don't have to arrest you. Take care of your court stuff.
And then they arrested him, and now he's facing charges. Wait, what date is this? This was in March.
I want to read something from chat when you guys get it.
Yeah, go ahead. Do it now. I'm reading.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. I'll just tell me if you agree or not. It says, too many people ignore the violence committed by fascists while focusing constantly on every poor Proud Boy or poor neo-Nazi who gets hit by a milkshake. These people are literally advocating for genocide and have people who've killed foreigners in recent attacks and the car attacks in Charlottesville, Dylan Roof, Las Vegas shooter, etc.
I mean,
to my
yeah.
knowledge, Antifa hasn't actually killed anyone.
No, they have not.
The violence has been okay.
Yeah, just because they suck at it doesn't mean they're okay.
They're not trying to kill anybody. First of all,
the dude attacking the ICE facility, he absolutely was Antifa, and just because he sucked at blowing up a propane tank, doesn't make him any less bad. And to the point, I have said, violence on the right is bad. Violence on the right is bad. Proud Boys being violent is bad. Now, grouping Proud Boys in with the Las Vegas shooter, obviously that's hyperbolic. I mean, I would assume people would agree that's hyperbolic because we have no idea what his motivation was.
Just that he had a bunch of Glenn Beck stuff on around his room and a bunch of right-wing material around his room, and he was...
Where did you see that? Because I haven't even heard that.
There were a lot of news sources
so you're going to attribute that material to his ideology that caused him to shoot people. Why?
Well, because right-wing ideology has a lot of inherent violence in it.
How?
Well, let's start, for example, talking about immigration.
Go ahead.
Okay. You don't think that it's a problem to constantly paint immigrants coming here as, you know, God, what is it? An invasion? Yes, as an invasion, or saying that they're trying to replace us, or talking constantly about how, you know, the white people are going to be a minority soon, talking about how we need more white babies, you know, painting this picture as, you know, talking about how they're bringing crime, talking about how they're bringing rape, rapists and murderers, how they're bringing drugs.
Are they not?
No, they're not.
There are no criminals coming across the border.
I mean, very minimal. Again, this has been proven.
Stuff if you want, but I believe immigrants actually, like, on average, commit less crime than native citizens.
But the point,
they do.
This is as citizens belong here. I know this sounds bad and dog whistling.
Yeah, because it is really bad.
No, it's not. Illegal immigrants do not belong here. If you come here illegally, you have broken the law. You've violated sovereignty of a nation. Therefore, you should not be here. Come through the legal way, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay, what about refugees?
Apply through the refugee status. What kind of point is that?
How do you apply for the refugee status?
Dude, go to .gov. Like, you can go.
No. There's another way.
Go ahead. Go to the port of entry and apply for refugee status.
Yeah, and that's where they're being arrested.
No, it is not. That is.
It literally is. They're going to the point. They're going to the point of entry. They're saying we're a refugee because you have to be on American soil in order to declare refugee status.
Oh my God!
It's true. Look it up. It's the law.
Link it, dude.
All right.
Because they haven't entered the United States at that point. Now, if you're lying about refugee status, then you get deported. I have Canada's links saved right here. They do the same damn thing.
There are multiple ways that you can declare asylum in the United States.
Yes.
And one of them is you have to be on U.S. soil and declare yourself a refugee. And then you go through the process. You're allowed to live here while you're waiting for your trial to take place to examine whether or not your refugee claim is legitimate. If your refugee claim is not legitimate, you get sent back.
Why is that bad? What in the process you just described is bad? You come here, you apply for refugee status, you wait in the United States, pending that status, and then if it's rejected, you get deported.
Well, are you talking about how it's done now or how it was done in the past? What's wrong with that?
I'm saying, what's wrong with the process you just described?
Well, it's because they're often denied the status because our determining factors are insanely draconian.
No, they're not.
They are. When we look at like a country like El Salvador, which is basically like a giant war zone for the cartels, because we went in and deposed several of their leaders to install leaders who were friendly to U.S. interests, U.S. business interests, then yeah, I'm pretty sure denying El Salvadorians or Hondurans who are also in the same situation refugee status is pretty fucking draconian.
Refugee status or asylum may be granted to people who have been persecuted or fear they will be persecuted on the account of race, religion, nationality, or membership in a particular social group or political opinion. What part of that is draconian?
The way it's implemented. Because we don't take in that many refugees. We actually take in way less now. Alrighty, Igloo, have a good night. I can give you a great podcast you can follow that's actually headed by two immigration lawyers. It's called what is Raygon's podcast? Starts with an R. God, I'm gonna have to look it up. Hang on a second.
So
Redirect. The Redirect podcast is great for this because they actually work in immigration law and they can explain it in very non-complicated terms. You can look up a guy named Stephen Robbins on Twitter. He explains it very easily. Go through his Twitter feed. He'll explain the many different ways that our immigration system is incredibly broken and is used as a punishment more than anything. Even before Trump, it's even worse now.
So in fiscal year 2018, a total of 22,491 refugees were resettled in the United States under the refugee ceiling of 45,000.
Compared to
what?
Compared to other countries. What do you mean compared to what?
Yeah, compared to whom? Like, why? Who do you want to compare to?
Let's say Germany.
Germany.
Specifically look for Syrian refugees because that's always interesting because a lot of the problems there were more or less caused by us. Most of the problems in the world are.
So are you equating Mexico with Syria? Is Mexico and Syria the same? Like, why are we comparing these two things?
Well, I mean, we did do a lot of bad things to Mexico. Pretty much our whole history of interference in Latin America and South America is really, really bad. You can admit that, right?
Not without evidence. I don't know what you're saying. You're speaking too generally right now.
Pick a country in South America or Latin America that we haven't deposed their leaders and installed someone who is friendly to our interests who happened to be a violent dictator. But he just happened to work with us. So they're allies.
Like whom? Or who?
Well, I mean, I gave two examples of Honduras and El Salvador. We installed Pinochet in the 70s. I mean, there's a whole lot of history. God, what was the most recent one we did? Guatemala, we did.
Okay, so let me cut to the chase here. So what I see here is you're making the case that we are morally responsible for all of these people.
Yeah, why not?
So why don't we just annex El Salvador?
Because we can't do that.
Yes, why can't we?
Because we don't have the power to do that.
Hell yeah, we do. Who will stop us? We're already
everyone else in the world, because we would basically be acting like West Germany. Like, holy crap.
We're morally responsible for them. We're fiscally responsible for them. So what do we need to do to make that situation better? We just take all of their citizens from El Salvador into the United States?
For one thing, we could stop supporting their dictators.
Okay, so what dictator are we supporting right now that we need to stop? And how will that fix the country?
Well, yeah, Bolsonaro is one. Well, he's not quite.
No, he is not.
Sorry, that was just one that put in. He is. No, I mean, don't get me wrong. He is really, really bad. Like, you've been following the stuff about how he's connected to the murder of God, who is it? The brother. I believe it was the someone who worked for the previous president, and how the judge who ruled against Lula was actually charged with covering it up. Like, that's a whole thing that's going on right now. Like, all the stuff about Operation Car Wash in Brazil has been very, very exposed. But we're doing it. We're attempting to do it right now in Venezuela by installing Juan Guaido. Maduro, like him or not, he was voted in by the people. He may not be good, and I mean, a lot of what's happened in Venezuela has to do with the sanctions that we put on them. We sanctioned them to death. Again, more of the U.S. exerting force.
No, their problem is oil prices. It has nothing to do with us. It's oil prices.
It's partially that.
So, do you think?
I'm glad you can at least admit that it's oil price. It's partially oil prices, but the sanctions don't help.
And oil prices.
It's not socialism.
It absolutely is socialism and oil prices.
Denmark and Venezuela are exactly as socialist, and also, or
They're
excuse me,
exactly
Norway, and they Norway and Venezuela have the same oil market and are just as socialist as each other, which is to mean that they have a 70 to 75% private ownership of all businesses. How is that socialism?
What now? Yeah, they own businesses. That's socialism. I mean, again, we get in some
This is
definition area. Yeah, we're getting a little.
Yeah, I just don't like it when people just throw out the word socialism like that, because that's not socialism by definition. There would be no private ownership under socialism. How could it be socialism? It drives me nuts. Okay.
No ownership of anything in private hands is communism. Government ownership of some companies is socialism. Is that not your definition?
No.
Okay, let's.
Well,
I don't even know if we want a definition because this is getting off.
Yeah, so Norway has a population of 5 million. Venezuela has a population of 31 million.
Okay.
So Venezuela has some of the largest, I think the largest or second largest oil reserves in the world. Why are we comparing these two countries?
Because they're very comparable in social makeup.
What does that mean?
Their social programs are very, very similar.
So their population is different. Their resources are different. But because they both have the same social programs, we should be comparing.
Well, I mean, if you're going to call Venezuela socialist, you have to... If you're not going to call Norway socialist, then you can't call Venezuela socialist. That's my point. That's why I don't like those terms.
Is or not.
They're literally just... My point is, you're waffling on Norway because you're saying,
you brought up Norway. I didn't bring it up.
At this point, I think we need a flowchart to figure out how we...
My point is, if you're going to say...
Okay, go ahead and continue then. Go ahead.
My point is, if you're going to say that the problem in Venezuela is socialism, you have to ask why the same has not happened in Norway, a very comparable country that doesn't have sanctions on it. So...
Dude, is 25 million more people
a larger tax base? That's a larger tax base, so I mean, and considering they're not a socialist country, they have, majority private ownership of businesses. I think that they're able to work and pay for everything. But if we're, sanctioning...
Are we talking about Venezuela here?
Yes, if we're sanctioning them to death, they can't exactly thrive, can they? Do you think our sanctions go to the top, or do they filter to the bottom?
Both. But
no.
Mostly to the bottom.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So there you go. So then what happened in Venezuela? There's mass hunger. Where? At the bottom. There's, mass job loss.
Why is that bad? Like, the government is... How are they not socialist again? The government has taken control
because they have a 75% private... They have a 75% private industry. If they were socialist, there would be literally no private industry. It would be owned by the means of production, which would be labor, which would be the people. It's not owned by the people. That's the definition of socialism right there. It wouldn't be socialist. Now Venezuela is fascist, but we had a hand in that.
So again, we're not. Why are we talking about Venezuela? Are we getting
Well, you were talking about. You asked me which dictators we're supporting, and we're supporting Juan Guaido in Venezuela, who has not been duly elected.
Are we getting refugees from Venezuela?
Some, yes. Most, like I said, most of them are coming from El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala.
El Salvador, and somehow we're morally responsible for them. We're financially responsible for them.
Yes, because
what are we supposed to do about the situation?
Well, I mean, like I said, we could stop supporting the dictators there that we imposed on them. We could have them removed the same way that we had them installed. we could
whoa,
actually
whoa,
work
whoa, whoa.
to
So
create
you're petitioning
elections
for us-
in those areas.
So you're petitioning for us to remove someone else, which
Someone that
shouldn't
we
do.
installed.
So the president of El Salvador was elected in 2015 after narrowly defeating Quijano. So how did we install Norman Quijano in 2015 in El Salvador? Your point is we need to stop supporting fascist dictators in El Salvador, and that will fix El Salvador. So how is this dude, whoever, Norman, wait, what date is this? February 10th, 2019.
I'm going to go ahead and read you this article to answer your question on specifically El Salvador.
Just give me the bullet points. I don't need a whole.
Well,
That's not
it's unfortunately not. It's a whole article. So but
well, El
let's see
Salvador
here.
elected a president in February 2019. So we need to remove Ortez, this new president, and
also the party that is running that.
So how do we remove
there's a
party?
Well, for one thing, we can make sure that there's actually fair elections. If you have a marriage between the often dictators are a marriage between the government and the military. Like they work hand in hand perfectly. You can change the government of these places very, very easily by making sure that that large faction cannot be voted in, because their vote usually is done at the aim of a gun. It's not legitimate.
Would have to support that. You would have to support it.
Okay, well, I mean, that's why I have this article
CNN
about
right
El
here
Salvador.
saying Bukele's, why do they call him that? Just call him Ortez. Considered a populist and outsider candidate who ran against the system. He says that he comes from the left and he had a political party of the right to run. So you're saying that we support this party. Well, really, we're getting off topic. So we need to depose him and depose his entire party, and that will resolve us of our moral culpability. So then we can build the wall, right?
It's a start, but no, we should never build the wall. The wall is stupid.
Why should we not build the wall?
The wall is stupid.
Why?
People enter the United States via ports of entry. Unless you're going to close down the ports of entry with the wall, which would disallow any immigration from the south of the border, you're not going to stop anything, because they enter through the ports of entry anyways. You're not going to build the wall over the ports of entry.
Let Middle America talk for a sec.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're going to enter legally, you enter through the port of entry. If you're doing it illegally, you don't.
That's not true either.
So they're being. Are you saying they're being smuggled through the port of entry?
Yeah, oftentimes they are.
Okay, so we need the wall and better border control. Like we need better border security.
And I know this is, I'm going to bread pill you a little bit.
Do it.
Or we say fuck the border, because
and we annex Mexico.
No.
Why not?
We say fuck our border and just let them in.
Yeah, and annex Mexico.
No. How's that annexing Mexico? By saying, look, you guys can just come in. You're gonna come in here. You're gonna pay taxes to us, because you do. They do. They pay taxes and they don't receive any benefit from it. And you got, huh?
They do just as much as any. Well, what do you mean? Well, no. You come in. You're female. You're guaranteed Medicare. You're guaranteed housing. You're guaranteed education.
You're not guaranteed Medicare.
You do not have. You absolutely are.
Medicaid, maybe. Medicaid, maybe.
Oh, Medicaid, whatever. Yeah. Medicaid.
Yeah.
My mistake. So, you're not paying that back ever, especially if you're an illegal alien. That's not happening.
Yeah, you are.
How? You're coming in. You're getting welfare. You're getting Medicaid.
They don't get welfare.
And you're getting health.
They might get Medicaid. Their kids will get Medicaid because anyone in
women
the U.S. under, I believe it's the age of 9 is covered under Medicaid if you don't have the money for insurance. Their mothers are not. Their parents are not.
That might be a state by state basis. I know in my state.
No, that's the entire United States.
No, dude, I've worked in mental health, and I've gotten people healthcare coverage. If you, which you don't even have to do, you just have to sign them up for Medicaid. If you have a child that is under 18, the mother gets Medicaid and the child gets Medicaid. The mother gets food stamps, the child gets food stamps.
You're right. They do get Medicaid. The mother and the child do get Medicaid, but the immigrants aren't getting welfare. I wish they did. I'm completely fine with it.
Well, yeah,
because they still pay into the system. I mean, this is what sales tax.
Why do we not have to have a? Why are we morally culpable for everybody in Mexico that wants to come here, or doesn't want to come here?
Again, we have a long-running history of interfering and causing mass corruption in Latin America and South America. We have interfered.
No, we're talking about Mexico now. You said Mexico. We're talking about the Mexican border. We're no longer sealing them. We're not doing anything.
Did we?
The Mexican border.
Have we not ever interfered in Mexico? The reason the cartels exist in Mexico is because of our stupid war on drugs.
So you think legalizing the war on drugs within the cartels?
I mean, certain drugs, yes. I am for the legalization of drugs. I believe in the Portugal model.
If you don't mind me asking, is that all drugs or only certain ones?
Portugal, I believe it's Portugal, legalized all their... It's either Portugal or Uruguay. Legalized all drugs, and they actually saw drug use go down because they started treating it as a mental health crisis and actually giving people help. And it was actually a net gain for the whole country.
So what happened in Portugal can absolutely happen in America.
I mean, why not?
Because it's apples to apples.
Why not? We have a drug problem here, and we treat it as a criminal offense rather than a mental illness.
So people are the same everywhere. We have the same motivations, we have the same desires, we have the same wants, and we have the same way of getting off of addictive behaviors.
I'm not entirely sure how that relates to drug use. Drug use, the reason people pursue drugs is usually the same. They're trying to get high.
You cut out. Whoa, you cut out.
I said when it comes to drug use, yeah, the reason people pursue drug use is usually to get high.
Why?
Why
are they getting high?
Because they want to be high. It doesn't matter the individual reason. That's the reason for the drug use. It's like saying...
So we're getting into my wheelhouse here a little bit. Psychology major, I'm actually studying motivation right now. Motivation absolutely matters. If you're trying to get somebody to stop doing something or start doing something, you have to find a way to motivate them. Getting high, well, if getting high is the only motivation, they will die. Because there's nothing to compete with that high.
Oh, of course.
So then you can't stop it. You just wait till they die.
Well, I mean, no. You can get them treatment. But I mean, if they actively pursue death, I mean, of course there's no way to stop it.
To feel good, then
my point wasn't that there isn't any other reason. My point is the overall reason is to get high. The extra stuff as to why they choose to get high,
that's not the extra
can
stuff.
Be cured in different ways.
The foundation. That is the reason why. This is the entire reason I brought this up. Is because you're saying the motivations for people getting high in Portugal are the same for the motivations for people getting high in Tbilisi, Alabama.
Largely.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just have to disagree.
Okay. I mean, like I said, it's a generalization. Like I said, I'm not talking about the specifics of why they get high. It's they want to get high, nothing else. If we get into the specifics, of course there's going to be different things. But, overall, the reason to do drugs is I want to get high for X reason as afterwards. Huh?
So making I want to get high. That's the reason for getting drugs. Making them legal stops drug use. How?
Well, it's not just legalizing the drugs. It's treating it as an illness and getting them treatment. If you're treating the underlying causes and also treating the drug use itself rather than criminalizing it, you can actually have a much more positive outcome with people. And that's what was shown. And drug use went down.
Yeah, I think one of the other things is once you like legalize drugs, I think that helps certain communities that have these kind of addiction problems. And also, now once it's legal, it's a lot easier to restrict it, right? Because you require these businesses to get permits, you can check on them, you can make a lot more rules for it, and that works out a lot better.
Yes,
I think those are the kind of outcomes we see with like marijuana legalization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm not entirely sure if that's what they did. I know they legalized all drugs and they increased treatment. They decriminalized it is the better way of putting it rather than legalized it. They decriminalized drug use and drug abuse, and treated it.
Actually, I'm libertarian on this for the most part.
Yeah,
and agree with some decriminalization. Again, we went off on another trail. So why? So we got on that because we thought legalizing drugs would stop the cartels, which would cause It
wouldn't stop the cartels, but it would definitely cut into them really hard and make them less powerful. I gotta emphasize that because they're really like these things are insane. The reason why we keep going down these tangents is because it's insanely difficult. There isn't one single answer to fix all of this, but a lot of it boils down to the fact that we interfered in a lot of these people's countries, and a lot of our corruption cycles into their countries.
And that results in our moral culpability. So when does that end?
When they can go back to their countries, which they will choose to do.
Why can't they do that now?
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Do it.
The whole like I'd only disagree with they will choose to go back to their country, because for some of these people, depending on how long it takes, we might be talking about a few generations here.
I mean,
right?
Yeah.
And if they've never lived in another country before, that they wouldn't necessarily want to go back.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people who they have a heritage that they want to go back and revisit. There's no reason after a few generations they might want to do that. Now, it's not going to be the exact number of those who came over. It's going to be a far more minuscule number. Regardless, I mean, this is all, of course, and not to send us on another tangent, this is all if climate change doesn't happen and, mass hunger and starvation and thirst causes them to come up north anyways. But, I mean, there's no fix all, and that's my overall point. But we have a moral obligation to do this because of what we've done being so damaging to large swaths of Latin and South America. We caused the immigrant crisis.
I don't agree.
It's completely there's nothing to disagree with. That is a fact.
There is. No, it is not.
How's it a fact?
We've unless we go through the history of El Salvador and Mexico, which we're not going to do right now. I don't have the energy.
And China. China's our number 2 importer of immigrants.
That's a good point. But illegal immigrants?
I don't know illegal or not.
Yeah, I think legal.
I found the exact excerpt, and it links back to the 90s, and this is just El Salvador. We can get into every single country if you want to, going back to the 70s.
Yeah,
exactly. We're not going to do that because overall, it is going to prove literally what I'm saying.
Go.
Okay. The U.S.-fueled war drove tens of thousands of El Salvadorians to flee the violence for safety in the United States. In the mid-90s, Clinton allowed their temporary protected status to expire. This decision contributed to the gang violence that marks El Salvador today.
How did we fuel the war? Like, it starts out with a premise that you're not supporting. How did we fuel the war?
Do you want me to read the entire article?
Like, just go back to how do we fuel the war? Like
All
you're
right,
saying how they
I'll go
revoked the
back.
refugee status. We're not talking about refugee status right now. We're talking about how did we interfere that caused their problems. And guess what? It's 2019. The 90s was 30 years ago. So if we interfere in anywhere at any point in time, when does our moral culpability stop?
I'll go ahead and
Never?
well, I mean, what's the problem with having them? I still don't understand that point.
No. You want to come here legally? I don't care. We have criteria that you could meet to do that. Absolutely. Go
Yeah,
through the right
and it's
process and do that.
expensive, and it takes like minimum 2 years. And in El Salvador, they kind of don't have that time because there's a giant civil war, and warring factions of cartels killing people.
So
They're
why don't
literally
we-
watching
so-
their families die, and they're choosing to come here and be in
to go back
concentration
to,
camps. So
we interfered there 30 years ago, and that was so devastating they can't fix themselves. So we're still morally culpable. So at what point do we no longer become morally culpable? When they get themselves not in war?
I mean, sure. What does it matter?
I think that's a decent question. Like, and this can be attributed to a lot of things, right? So what would America have to do to, I don't want to say make right, but what's happened to like Native Americans and to our African American population? It's a difficult question to answer.
I mean, it largely is, but when it comes to immigration and the interference with these countries, I don't think it matters. Once they're here and they're adding to the health of society, I mean, immigrants are good for society. They are a net gain for society. So having more of them is not a problem unless you look at it as a problem based on race.
No. Do not go there. You're attributing
Well, then-
motivation where you have not established.
I know.
Do not play that game.
I'm just saying
So
that there's kind of no other place to go. What
There
is the
absolutely
problem?
is.
They are a net gain for society.
Okay, so Middle America, why what's your take here?
I'm absolutely fine with legal immigration. You have legal immigration. We protect our border. We have national sovereignty. I didn't do anything to any of these people, so I am not morally culpable for any of this stuff.
Your country did.
No, I was not even born then, dude.
In the 80s?
Why am I culpable? Why am
You're older than me, right?
This is a different point. So let's get back to. We can accept them legally. That is fine. I have no problem with that. Them
Waiting the
coming
2-year
illegally-
process and having them all die under cartel violence.
I missed the first part of that.
Waiting 2 years minimum, and ending up dying to cartel violence anyways.
It takes a couple weeks to get a work visa. I just looked this up. Time for a U.S. work visa. So this says 7th. Until recently, typical process time for a work permit application was 90 days. Well, there was another one I looked up that was shorter than that. Temporary worker visa. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, so it is not.
Isn't there a cost to that too? I mean, that's still a barrier for entry. And you're talking about poor people who are living under cartel violence, right?
So move somewhere where there's not cartel violence. Why does it have to be the U.S.?
Yeah, they are.
Why
Because
does it
every
have to
single
be the U.S.?
because all of those countries have cartel violence.
No. That's a broad brush. So everywhere in Mexico has cartel violence.
Large swaths of Mexico has cartel violence, yes.
So if large swaths do, why don't you go to somewhere where there's not cartel violence?
Yes, the United States.
No, in Mexico. You just said.
Then they'll come and get you in Mexico.
What?
Because they live there. They're going to come after you in Mexico. There's no
if they're
cartels in
coming
the
after
U.S., therefore come to the United States because we don't have the cartels here.
So if they're coming after you, you could probably apply. I mean, they're coming after you for a reason. Probably. I mean, if you're just a regular Joe in the town, they're not coming after you.
You have something they want, or they
why
want to
can't-
sell it. They want to sell your daughter to sex slavery or human trafficking,
So leave
or
and go to somewhere in Mexico that isn't violent, that doesn't have cartel violence. Why is that not okay?
because the cartels will find you.
Oh my gosh! Do you see that leap that you're taking there?
How's that a leap? It's
so
very
now
literally what
violence.
Mexico has been for the last like 40 years.
There's violence everywhere in Mexico. There's nowhere you can go in Mexico that is not violent.
The cartels pretty much run Mexico.
No, not pretty much. Because pretty much means there are some places.
In the same way that the oil companies pretty much run the U.S. Yes, there's different factions, of course, but largely cartels are.
Oil's company, and then you cut up.
Oh, I said in the same way that oil companies largely run the U.S.
What?
You're not going to deny
We're not
that,
going
are
down
you?
that rabbit hole. We're not going down that rabbit hole right now. So they can't, for some reason, they can't go somewhere safe in Mexico at all.
Because if they're fleeing cartels, and the cartels can still find them, because these cartels are linked up.
Do you not see that that's a leap? They're leaving the cartels, and the cartels are following them. Why are the cartels motivated in following these people?
Because why did they go after them in the first place?
They
have something that they want. Namely, they have slave labor, they have a means to sell more drugs or become more drug mules, or they have sex trafficking or human trafficking, huh? No, you're not letting drug mules in. You're letting in people who are avoiding becoming drug mules at the point of a gun in the country. People who don't want to break the law, who don't want to be working for the cartels. People who want to avoid the violence, who want their children to be able to avoid the violence and be culpable in the cartel violence.
Okay. So you, for some reason, you refuse to admit that there's somewhere else that they have to come to America. Yes, they have to come to America.
I mean...
And they can't do it legally. They have to come to America, and they have to do it illegally.
You have to wait 90 days, and you end up dead in the process. And you said that's a minimum, and has changed and gotten longer at this point. I mean...
because we needed more money for... this is another rabbit hole. We needed more money for the border, and weren't getting it until recently, but that's a whole other... But they have to. So the question stands. They have to come to the U.S., and they have to do it illegally.
Yeah, they're kind of left with no choice. Desperate.
They can't fix their problem at home. They can't go somewhere else closer that is less violent.
Hold on, Mr. Cartel person. Don't shoot my child. I need to fix my government first. You hear how stupid that sounds? I'm just saying. Look, I'm not calling you stupid, but you're clearly not thinking straight on this.
Yeah, why? So how will the cartels ever get fixed if people don't stop them? This is the learned...
Because someone has to come in who exerts more force and has more power to exert it.
So call the help. You leave and you call the help.
That's us. And we're not doing anything.
So
in the meantime, we can house them and we can allow them to stay here because...
You're justifying the war in Iraq. You are justifying the war in Syria right now. You're justifying the war in Yemen right now.
That is a huge leap. No, oh my God.
People, they're leaving. They're refugees.
Oh my God.
They're in a really bad place. And
it's nowhere near the same thing.
We need to come help them. And to do that, we got to call the help. Call the help. U.S. comes over, and now they're helping.
No.
Quote, unquote.
No.
How not? How not?
No.
They're not fixing it themselves. They're leaving. They're being refugees. Somebody has to come in and fix it. You just said somebody has to fix it.
Syria is much more complicated than what's going on in El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala.
How so?
Are you kidding me?
How so? Yeah, explain it.
It's all different. There's like several different political factions all fighting over the land with a centralized president hoarding over them with using the military to protect himself.
Like, yeah, that sounds exactly like... Oh, not exactly, because the military protecting them.
Exactly.
Yeah, yes, the military is protecting the government against the cartels, who are political factions, and there are different parties within El Salvador. It sounds exactly the same so far. So how is it different?
I mean, ISIS isn't in El Salvador or Guatemala.
Okay.
For starters. And ISIS is a lot larger group than...
That's a name for another political faction. So ISIS is bigger than the cartels.
And ISIS isn't installed in the government. Literally, the cartels are running the government of El Salvador.
Well, that's another claim that we have to make, but I'm too tired to deal with it.
It was a war. I've been trying to read this. It was a war because you asked me when did we start causing these problems because it wasn't in the 90s because you said I started a thought in the middle of a thought. Okay, it was a war.
You started the article. You started reading the article.
I read an excerpt from the article to
Yes,
show you
and
where the
that's
last
not
thing
when
that we
we
did
started
that had a
this.
negative effect on El Salvador. It
Right.
was a civil war of the 1980s, one that pitted leftist revolutionaries against the alliance of countries, oligarchs, and generals that had ruled the country for decades with U.S. support, keeping peasants illiterate and impoverished. It was a bloody, brutal, and dirty war. More than 75,000 Salvadorians were killed in the fighting, most of them victims of the military and its death squads. Peasants were shot en masse, often while trying to flee. Student and union leaders had their thumbs tied behind their backs before being shot in the head. Their bodies left
all of the dirty violence. Why are we culpable 40 years later?
Because that violence has continued.
Even
And things like
elections now.
And things, I mean,
Are they not? I am Gaia. I see it.
I mean, as much as you could call what happened in Venezuela, which I know you wouldn't call that an election, as I mean, that was a very dirty election, but it's actually worse in El Salvador because you literally can't trust it. Literally a dictator getting voted in, just like they do in North Korea, which I'm sure you wouldn't say that's democratic elections.
You're making assumptions.
So
you're saying that the current president is a dictator?
Yes.
And that the election that he had was a sham?
I'm saying that they have a ruling party as a dictator. This fascism. Single party lead, and a marriage between the military or a cartel.
This is why I keep going down to the value, because all of this is superfluous to the point of you think that something that happened 40 or 50 years ago makes us morally culpable today, and that means that we should not have a sovereign border.
That's not why I think we shouldn't have a sovereign border. But, I mean, that's why I think we should allow them in. But, I mean, I know I'm not going to get a No Borders USA anytime soon. I'm just making an argument of where I would like to go. Because I don't really see any point in creating these barriers to entries to people who choose to be in the United States, choose to help out the society as much as they benefit from it.
How do you? I mean, you're attributing good faith and goodwill here.
I mean, because it's largely been true.
Is it not just that's just an assumption. Is it not true that the
cartels? Again, Leon read earlier that they were far less likely to enact crime than U.S. citizens. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they've earned their good faith.
So the cartels can't come across a not controlled border, because we've already said that the cartels are bad and they're ruining Mexico. So we should let the cartels in because they're good faith actors.
Well, I mean, that's getting into, like I said, this is far, far down the line. First thing we would have to do is
right now, we have no border, and we were responsible. A couple more.
Why would I jump straight to having no border? I just simply want to allow the people in.
What? You said, yeah. Well, what does that mean? You just let everybody in. What? I mean, that's no border.
I mean, they're still going in through ports of entry.
But it doesn't matter. You're letting everybody in.
So, just to clarify, when you say open borders, you mean like anybody can walk through, but only at certain points?
I mean, of course, there would be, ports of entry. We aren't just gonna let people in without checking them out first. We're not gonna. I mean, we're gonna frisk them. We're gonna make sure that they're not bringing in any guns or anything like that.
But you're not securing the border. So what keeps them from just driving across with guns?
Well, I mean,
no wall.
The wall doesn't do anything. I keep telling you, man, the wall is stupid. The wall is pointless.
You keep saying the wall is stupid, but
because they enter via ports of entry anyways.
So they're bringing guns in through the ports of entry.
They're actually not.
Exactly my point. But right now, they are not forced to go through ports of entry. because we have a porous border
But they are going through ports of entry.
with guns.
No.
I mean, do you not see the circular where we're going right here?
I don't know where you're getting the guns from.
Why will you not secure the border?
Huh?
Why don't you want the wall? Why would you not secure the
Because the wall is stupid, pointless waste of money. If people are entering through ports of entry anyways, building a big, expensive wall isn't stopping anyone, is it?
So they're bringing drugs to the port of entry.
Yeah. Now,
So we should
currently.
let them bring drugs through the port of entry. Like,
Huh?
I mean, we're going so far off reality.
No. They shouldn't be bringing drugs across the port of entry.
So
Like you're just literally putting words in my mouth, saying that I'm telling them to bring guns across and bring.
Okay, no, you're right. You're right.
Because the wall clearly is going to have some effect for them to go through ports of entry, which they're already doing anyways now. And I keep saying that the wall does fucking nothing.
Now you're just getting off. So how are we getting drugs from Mexico into the United States? Only through the ports of entry?
Yeah, it's one way. Yeah.
So
they also come via flights too.
That's one way. So what are the other ways we get them?
From the air. They get flown in. Are you going to deny that? You're going to deny that people aren't coming in with drugs stashed in them, flying in?
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you were saying that they're flying in on cargo planes.
No.
Okay.
I thought you meant like drones.
No, I mean,
so
that can actually more likely happen if we build a big stupid wall. But you know.
So we're not going to agree on the wall because you're just calling it stupid and you're not actually making a point against it.
I've made several points against it that
if they're entering.
I keep saying that if they're coming,
your cartel, you're bringing fentanyl in the United States, and you need to protect the fentanyl with your evil AK or AR-15. So you can't bring the AR-15 or the fentanyl through the port of entry. So how do you get in the United States? You fly that?
I mean, they're not...
Like, you're being willfully ignorant to... They can come across the border. They can walk across the freaking border. Or they can drive across. And until you stop that with some sort of barrier, you're not forcing people to go through the port of entry. You're allowing them through at any point that they are physically capable of crossing. Why is that okay?
If they're mainly going through the ports of entry...
Don't do a generalization. I gave you...
Because I'm even allowing a conservative estimate because I know that a vast majority of them do go through the port of entry. And you're ignoring that fact because you realize that if you admit that, then the wall is pointless. The wall doesn't stop jack shit. Because if they're going through the port of entry, then the wall does nothing.
This is just talking points.
It's literally not. You're literally not making an argument for the wall.
I gave you a specific example, and you say, if maybe most, they're coming through the port of entry.
Buying into your argument, yes. I'm giving you some leeway with it. You asked me a question, I bought your framing, and I'm answering it.
No,
I shouldn't be buying your framing.
They come through the port of entry only. They can bring drugs and 1,000 tons of fentanyl through the ports of entry.
I mean, they have been.
So that precludes us from doing any other type of barrier system. Because it's fine that anybody can come in, because you realize that you just pitched for an immigration system. You said we would check out, we would frisk people, and we would check out whatever. I mean, that's immigration system. People who come in so that we know who they are. That's immigration.
That isn't what I said. I didn't say it so we know who they are. I said that so we know what they're bringing in.
Okay, maybe you didn't, and I mistake that. But still, I mean the point. So, I mean that's ICE. That's what they do.
No, it's not.
We control the border.
That's Border Patrol, actually. ICE works within the United States. And ICE shouldn't exist as far as I'm concerned, but that's a whole different conversation.
I would actually like to bring a statistic in here if that's
okay. Go ahead.
So yeah, I found an NPR interview with Gil Kulikowski. He's the commissioner for the U.S. Customs and Border Protection.
Okay.
According to him, over 90% of drugs coming in through the southern border are coming through ports of entry.
Thank you.
Okay. So how do we fix that? And what do we do about the other 10% is inconsequential?
I mean, maybe there's a solution that actually fixes both, right?
Well, and then again, let's we can actually pick apart that statistic. How do we know? How in the hell would we know that that's that statistic?
I mean,
Like you see, like somebody's coming through the border illegally, and we don't know that they're here. Then how the hell do we know that 90% of what is brought into the United States comes through a point of entry? Because we are not tracking the people that are coming through illegally.
Well, I mean, it's where they're most likely stopped. We also have ways of, getting intel from cartels to find out. We may not be able to find the exact
bias. So we catch them at the port of entry. So we say 90% of it comes through the border entry, and we have no idea. There's no context for that stat because it could be 1% for ours, or it could be 100% for ours.
I mean, you kind of interrupted me here.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So if it's mostly where we're finding them coming in, where we can bust people that are coming in, we can also get intel from inside the cartels to find out where they're coming in. We may not be able to stop the specific person because we may not be able to apprehend them. We may not know who it is or which port of entry, but we will be able to tell, hey, if we have somebody on the inside, which CIA, that's what they fucking do.
So you're believing cartel snitches, and that's where you're getting your data.
I mean,
this
isn't some intricate organization. It's a drug cartel. I mean, they're going to try and find a way to get their drugs in the country.
That I'm not going down. So the reason we're talking about the cartel is just somebody asked my. So the reason we're talking about the cartel is we're talking about the
moral obligation to. Oh, I thought we were talking about the moral obligation to refugees and immigrants.
We hit a wall on that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, we can still talk about the wall. I mean, the wall is an easy thing. I mean, you're reciting, you're flopping around on a lot of things on it, but
how?
Why because again, if you're calling into question this statistic because it's damaging to your argument.
No, I said give it to it. 90% comes through the border.
Yep.
So the 10% is inconsequential. We don't care.
10% can come from the mail. It can come from the air, as we've already discussed.
No. So now you're speculating.
No.
I mean that's just so we're getting. I mean I'm not even go down the straw man. So
it's not a straw man.
It is absolutely straw. You're going to argue about a straw man.
That's very legitimately not a straw man, because I was actually talking about what you were talking about. I directly answered what you were saying. There's no straw man.
It comes through. It comes through the mail. The 10%.
No, not the entire 10%. I said there's a collection of different ways that they get in from the 10%.
So does any of it come through people just walking it through? Does any of it come through that way? Does anybody come through the United States illegally? Does anybody cross the border not at a port of entry?
They might. But largely, no. Largely, they come in through a port of entry.
Yeah, so kind of going off what I was able to read in that, and it seems like the idea is you want a port of entry because if you're caught going through like an illegal port, you're going to immediately be stopped and arrested by border control.
There we go.
That's the same law.
The other thing is if you come through a port of entry with drugs, as soon as you make it to the other side, you can drop it off and move on.
What?
Because there are going to be people at the port. If you're coming through the port of entry with drugs and you make it through, you've immediately got people on the other side and meet up, hand the drugs off, and
we do have a moderator.
You're not stuck trying to get through to some town on the other side. You're immediately there. It's a lot safer when you make it through. The reasons why we're going through the port of entry to get drugs.
I got to address this point because someone in my chat pointed it out because I didn't get to say it. The reason that I say might and most is because I can't account for every single person's activity. If one person does it, you said all of them do, and here's this one person who did it, then I'm fucked. I have to admit that it's not all, but the vast majority, yes, because that's how statistics work. They aren't 100%. They're usually 99.9%, if anything.
So
that's
this comes
not
down
100.
to risk appropriation. You think it is an acceptable risk to have an open border because the small amount of drugs and guns that can come across the border through non-ports of entry. And I don't agree with that risk appraisal.
Well, I mean, that's assuming that I want us to not fix the problems that we caused in these countries in the first place.
No, that's a different argument. We're talking.
It's the same argument because, like I said, it would be a process. What I want
at the border, you see little to no risk at the border, so nothing needs to be done. If anything does need to be done, we need to open it up more because there's no risk to citizens. Little to no risk.
You're putting a lot of words in my mouth now. Literally what I said was what I want to see done with the no borders would come down far down the line. I don't think it would happen in my lifetime, let alone my kids' lifetime or my grandchildren. Maybe them. Who knows? We'll see.
So you're okay with your grandchildren paying for sins, moral culpability of stuff that happened before you were born?
I mean, yeah.
When does that stop?
When we're not funding cartels and funding
we're not funding
dictators
right now. I mean, are we?
Yeah.
Let me guess, right? Because you might make the argument the government isn't, but the public are, right? The people that are buying these goods and services from the cartel are funding them. That's why certain things like legalization of drugs actually removes a lot of power from cartels because they'll be making less money off of it that way.
No, not even that. We actually literally funded and built an alliance of oligarchs and generals inside of those countries for decades.
And we're doing that now. I mean, it just comes down to I don't agree that we have moral culpability for that and that we as a sovereign nation should have sovereign borders. Just like Canada does, just like Sweden does, just like any other country does.
That doesn't make it right.
Okay. Well, we'll just have to agree to disagree.
I mean, yeah, but the wall still is stupid. I still don't. I mean, we.
Shot in.
Okay.
But I mean, if we agreed that you're not going to agree on, and I had said that you're not going to agree with me on open borders, and I freely admitted that I was just bread pilling you, and that I can go ahead and say that's something that I would want in the fast future. But the wall, pointing out that 90% of the drugs are still coming in through port of entries, saying we'll build the wall and that'll stop the drugs, when it clearly doesn't and would not, is a joke. It just, you want to talk about things that my grandchildren are going to be paying for. I'd rather they pay for the sins of this country from the 80s and the 90s, down the line, than a stupid wall that did jack shit and looked ugly and did nothing but become a monument to racism along our border.
Whoa, no.
So
that's why Trump wants it. I'm not saying you.
We never answered this. Right, because earlier it came to the point you said something towards middle, something like the only reason for the wall would be for racism if it's not completing other objectives. I don't know that middle ever got a chance to actually say why he's in favor of the wall.
Well, let me say what I said specifically because that was not quite what I said.
Okay, it was a bit ago. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I understand. What I said was when you actually look at the different reasons for building the wall, you can pretty much, a lot of these people tell themselves whatever they need to. But at the end of the day, when you look at the only viable reason that you can't really argue with is racism. Because there's no way to argue it. If you feel like these people should not be here because their culture or whatever isn't going to integrate or they don't assimilate or whatever, That's difficult to argue with because you already inherently believe that people from this culture don't deserve to be here. But any other argument for the wall, on its face, does not work, as I've already pointed out.
Sovereignty. We are a sovereign nation. Mexico is a sovereign nation. Why shouldn't we protect our borders?
Is Canada a sovereign nation?
Yeah, and they protect their borders too.
They have a wall?
They don't need a wall because we're not flooding in there.
I mean, not yet.
But
not yet.
So this is Canada's policy from their .ca site. When you enter Canada irregularly outside an official port of entry, you are intercepted and arrested by police.
Just like the U.S.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing.
Okay, but they don't have a wall.
No, because they're not facing the situations that they are. That's one of the reasons
we're facing the exact same situation, actually.
Hell no. So the United States
again, if people
with drug cartels, and we're trying to get into Mexico. Or excuse me, we're trying to get into Canada.
How are drugs smuggled into Canada?
Oh my god! So you're actually gonna go that this is an apples to apples. I mean,
I'm gonna.
This is another straw man. Why can't we be a sovereign nation?
Why do we need a wall to be a sovereign nation? That's my question.
To protect our borders. Because without borders, you are not a sovereign nation.
But we don't need a wall to have a border. Borders are made up lines anyways. And again, I'm going to keep pointing out. This is the reason why I brought up how drugs are smuggled in through Canada. It's because they enter through the same ports of entry. They might enter through our port of entry, and then they enter through Canada's port of entry, but they're still going through a port of entry. Because as you just said, the law in Canada is the same as ours. If you do not enter through a port of entry, you are immediately apprehended. You are immediately apprehended.
Yeah,
so if you're entering through a port of entry,
they catch you. So what happens if they come through the border and they don't catch you?
I mean, the same thing that happens if they don't catch you when you go through a port of entry.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right.
But a wall isn't going to stop that.
Yeah. I mean, we'll just disagree with her. There's no other way. There's no other way that yeah.
I mean, I could even go as far and just say, hey, you know what? They could just bring a ladder. The wall is stupid. I'm telling you. It is terrible idea. It's a half-baked idea by a old racist with a syphilitic brain. So that's what it is.
Sorry. I don't agree with the wall either, but that's kind of a personal.
Oh yeah, it's just a hyperbolic.
Trump? No, I'm talking about Trump.
The point is when you, I mean, I'm not going to get into the specific of slowing people down. The wall is made to slow people down or to stop people. One, it's symbolic. Hey, we actually protect our borders and.
Remember what I said? It would work as a monument to Trump's racism.
Well, you said racism, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
it would be symbolic of what? Keeping the brown people out. I mean.
No, we are a sovereign nation. Do it correctly. Do it correctly, and you will be welcomed. Do it incorrectly, and you get deported, just like you do from Canada.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I can no. Let me. This is. I can see that bad faith argument, and I can see where if you look at this endpoint, it absolutely. I mean, you're calling somebody racist. How's that not bad faith? I can see how you can say this wall, and then you attribute motivation. But
I said once we take away all the points, which are complete and utter bunk, which I've already done. All that's left to defend it is the racism.
I'm not ceding that by any means.
Because there's
it is not racist. So
unless the wall is going to go over the points of entry, the wall does not work to stop jack shit.
Yes, it does.
No.
Have you tried to get into a high school? You tried to walk into a high school. How do you do that? I mean, do I have to explain the physics of doors and walls? Does that allow you to freely move, or does that slow you down?
Well,
you have to figure out a way to get over.
Well, my high school, I was able to get through the fence. because there were openings in the fence because a lot of students walked there.
Good.
So I didn't need to do jack shit. Or I could have jumped the fence and that wouldn't have done anything. Huh?
Was that at it? So you can enter the building at it.
From behind, yeah. The front of it didn't have a fence.
You can go in straight to your classroom, to your desk. You don't have to go through.
I'm sorry, what? You cut up.
You can go straight through a wall. You don't have to walk through a door.
I mean, of course I have to walk through the door, but that's a...
So the wall impedes you. Why is it important that a wall impedes you?
You're talking about the difference between shelter and a fucking country? Dude, this is a terrible... No, I'm going to stop you right here because this is incredibly stupid, bud. No, I can. This is incredibly dumb. You're talking about the difference between a country, an open state of land where many people live in, where there are structures on it, and a structure itself that is built for the purpose of being a shelter.
So can you walk through walls?
No, I cannot walk through walls, but the country is not a goddamn building.
Okay, so
the country is a country. This is incredibly stupid. Abandon all ye hope now before you say something incredibly dumb. Okay?
So if
I'm telling you, drop this metaphor. No, I'm helping you, bud.
You can't argue against this.
Like, no. I just did. I'm helping you. I promise you, I'm helping you.
Get pissed.
I promise you, I'm helping you.
If it's so stupid and facile, then let me be your foil and let me make the argument, and then you can prove how stupid I am. Okay? So let me make the argument.
Okay.
So the wall slows you down. It funnels you into places, and it keeps you from being able to freely move across the space. So if I am trying to cross a 12-foot wall, I cannot freely walk across that 12-foot wall. I have to have prep, and it takes time to bound a 12-foot wall. Guess what that does? It slows me down. Why would that be important? It's so that maybe, I don't know, cameras or Border Patrol people can see, oh, there's somebody with a big ladder that is trying to climb the wall, instead of just being able to walk across. So show me how dumb I am.
You remember that whole thing about how most of the people enter through ports of entry?
So talking point.
No.
So instead of
no facts,
point,
actual statistics, facts. We've already addressed this. They enter through a port of entry. And again, using a comparison of a building that is sheltered, that has a roof, that has a ceiling.
Thank you. You're ceding my point.
No, I'm not. I'm pointing out how incredibly dumb it is. They already enter through ports of entry. And using an example of a country that does not have a roof. Unless we put a goddamn dome over the country, making the argument for the wall makes no sense when talking about it in the context of a building. It's stupid. It's really dumb.
Yeah.
You can't put a ladder on a building, crawl over the roof, and jump in.
So address my point then.
I just did.
No, you didn't. So can you put a ladder on a wall and move across it just as fast as you can across, or drive across?
Well, I mean, of course it's gonna slow you down a little bit, but I already admitted that though. That's the thing. It doesn't matter because, like I said, most illegal immigrants gain entry through ports of entry. So,
okay, real quick, because we haven't even like got to this, right? What percentage of illegal immigration happens through illegal entry? Quick percentage, 2016, 2017. Any guesses?
How could you even know that? I mean, really, like from a scientific statistical analysis.
It's called the census.
How do you know the unknown?
It's called the census.
How do you know we can't even ask on the census whether you're a citizen or not. Where
no,
are you
getting
can't. This information?
But
I believe you can ask if you're a permanent citizen.
No, you can't. You don't, like, this happened like a month ago. They sued it in court.
They can't ask specifically, are you a citizen? They can ask your status, though.
No, they can't. In 2020, they cannot.
Yeah, they can.
Anyway, this is straw man. Keep going.
Everything is a
3?
straw man. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yes,
yeah.
yes. Your
Oh, yeah,
statistics.
yeah. Okay, yeah. So we're talking about illegal border entry. This is from 2017, so it's not. Maybe you could find a better one. Only 38% of illegal immigrants actually come through the border illegally. 62%, which we could say is the majority, come from expired visas. These are people that did get here legally but did not leave.
Yeah, the deportation. That's a different argument. I don't have the patience to get into tonight.
Right, but I think we're focusing on an issue which doesn't seem to be like is 38% of the issue.
Well, 38% of 12 million. Or like, what is the population here?
Let me see if it says that in the report.
Because the last numbers we have is 12 million illegal immigrants in the United States. 2% of them are visa overstays. But again, like the asylum path to citizenship, that's a completely different argument.
Let me see if I can here. I can see it declined, but
Well, I mean, it doesn't
and
really make that big a difference.
it looks for 2017, it looks like the number was about 10.67 million.
Yeah.
From all countries. Mexico, it looks like makes about
3 million or so come through the border. So that means, break it out. 3 million of them comes through the border. 10% of that, so 30,000 come not through the border.
Yeah. So if we're talking about like
port of entry, excuse me, port of entry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So if we're interested in like keeping our sovereignty and making sure we don't have non-immigrants here that are supposed to be here, the border is absolutely an issue because there's a lot of people, 30 whatever. But it looks like the bigger part is actually like overseas.
Yes. Yeah, and that's a different argument that we probably have more.
So build the wall.
Yeah.
It's what I'm kind of getting at is that we're getting like super emotional and super stuck on this one issue isn't even the majority of the problem.
Which goes to my point. Building the wall would do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
at this point, the two of you are going to disagree on that.
Yeah, I just don't.
We've spent way too much time on the wall. Now my chat is saying we need to build a dome.
Yeah.
Way to go, guys.
Yeah, like I said,
I gotta get off here.
Yeah, it's for
here and I'm exhausted.
Same. We appear to be in the same time zone. Oh no!
Yeah,
don't do that, Holden. Don't do that. I'm not even going to repeat that.
All right, I know it got hairy, but it was fun. I still enjoy this.
Yep.
I think this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd do it again. I'd come on again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Okay, yeah, I'll try to organize this. I don't know how often, but a little more often. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Yep.
Yeah,
have a good one.
Both.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
I gotta be nice. I mean, most of what we talked about was fun. It was fun to talk to the Yang guy. That was oof. The wall talk was definitely really annoying. 'Cause I mean, how many times did like he shift or put words in my mouth or, you know, assume something that I never said or, you know, completely ignore that I already addressed what he said. That is a problem, man. It's because, and every time, and I never once deviated from the point he was making. Never once did I deviate from a question he was asked. I did not attack a point that he did not make. At no point did I do that. No point. My point in pointing out the racism was to point out that once you hash out all of these things, all that's left is the racism. And you can't argue against that. I'm not saying he's racist. I have no idea. But that's not a straw man. Because literally, I wasn't making a point that he wasn't making. I wasn't attacking. That is the definition of straw man. I was not attacking a point that he was not making. That got silly on that front. I mean, let's go ahead and be honest here. That went about kind of how I expected it to go when I was originally invited, but without people ganging up on me. I kind of figured it would be a bunch of Trump people ganging up on me just to shout me out. Yeah. I mean, it's such it's a conversation ender to say that. He never said anything specifically that was racist. Therefore, I cannot make that judgment. I cannot call it out. I have no idea how he feels about immigrants, except for that we have no moral obligation to. And that's not inherently racist. That's more than anything, what's the word? Isolationist. And isolationism is not inherently racist, even if some of the reasons for it can be racist. And that's a distinction worth making. And honestly, a smart one. And very important. And it furthers the conversation. I know it was painful. It was. I was losing my mind. When he brought up that school building thing. That school building thing was the worst example. And I tried so hard to stop him from saying it. I tried so hard. When his overall point was to get me to say that, yes, it would slow down people to use a ladder. Which was a point that I made as a joke to point out how useless the wall is. Because, I mean, there would still be a lot of people that would... I appreciate it, Leon. That last half was kind of... That was difficult. That was what I was afraid of when I first went in. But I appreciate you inviting me on. I did have a lot of fun for the most part. Talking to Trump wall people is a no-win. It is a no-win. But I appreciate you so much seeking me out and inviting me on, man. Yes, it was. Because he's ignoring the fact that they literally go back to their country and they fucking die. Or they choose not to leave and they fucking die. Or, you know, what? Let's go to Mexico, where the cartels largely have control, and communicate with the cartel in my own country, and they fucking die. Oh, go where the cartels aren't. Okay, then they'll go where you are. Because they can get there. Easily. In a country that they control. That is a joke. That is a sad, sad joke. But the building thing, that damn near broke me. That damn near broke me. He was saying that the cartel was following immigrants into the United States. I mean, they can, yes, and there's an extent that they do. Like, I do know that is something that can happen and has happened in the United States. Largely, it does not, because we are not run by cartels. We are run by oil companies. And oil companies don't like cartels because they have a tendency of setting oil fields on fire. So, I mean, started the building thing. How did he even get there? He wanted to make the point, okay, that he could have literally just said that, you know, does it take longer to climb a ladder over a wall than it does to, to walk through where there is none. Now, this has to ignore that there are already things set up along the border. I didn't even get into the fact that, oh, I don't know, they could just, well, get in a boat or a raft and sail across, which a lot of people already do, and the wall, we're gonna close off our coast with a wall. We're talking about making it even bigger along our coast so we can't even enjoy the coast. Like, it's just... Oil companies may not care about cartels, but cartels do. You know, when they're building on their land and mining in their land, they kind of have problems with that. That's why a lot of cartels do set oil fields on fire. They don't want legitimate business running in their area. It distracts away from their work. That fucking building thing. All right, Van. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. I appreciate y'all, you guys, sticking around for that. That was quite a thing.